The unexpected recruit. The vast emptiness of deep space stretched before Kai Rodriguez like an infinite canvas of darkness, punctuated only by the faint blinking lights of the maintenance shuttle's control panel. Most people would find the isolation maddening, but for Kai, it was a welcome respite from the chaos of his previous life. Former Marine, certified deep space maintenance specialist, and perpetual problem solver, Kai had found his calling in the quiet corners of the universe where most would never venture. His weathered hands, mapped with a network of small scars, danced across the shuttle's controls with the practiced ease of someone who understood machines better than most people. The communication array suddenly chirped, an unexpected interruption to the usual monotony. Kai frowned, adjusting the frequency. Standard communication protocol suggested this wasn't a routine transmission. The signal was fragmented, desperate, speaking the language of mathematical patterns that seemed to dance between coherence and chaos. Unknown vessel, this is Maintenance Shuttle Delta 9. Kai spoke into the comm, his voice steady. Identify yourself. The response came not in words, but in a burst of quantum-encoded data that would have overwhelmed most standard communication systems. But Kai wasn't most technicians. His time in the Marines, coupled with years of deep space maintenance, had taught him to read between the lines, or in this case, between the quantum frequencies. The message was a cry for help, but not from any species he recognized. Complex mathematical equations intertwined with what seemed like emotional signatures, creating a communication matrix that was part language, part existential plea. Something was terribly wrong somewhere in the cosmic expanse. Kai's training kicked in. Most would have contacted Central Command, filed a report, waited for instructions. But Kai Rodriguez had never been one to wait. The coordinates embedded in the transmission suggested a region of space that shouldn't exist, a quantum boundary where the laws of physics became more suggestion than rule. Computer, he called out, calculate optimal intercept course for these coordinates. The ship's AI hesitated, an unusual response that caught Kai's attention. Warning, it finally responded. Coordinates exist outside standard navigational protocols. Probability of safe passage, 0.00003%. A slight smile crossed Kai's lips. Those were the kind of odds that had always intrigued him. As the shuttle adjusted its trajectory, Kai began preparing his equipment. A standard maintenance kit wouldn't be enough for whatever awaited him. He pulled out specialized quantum stabilization gear, adaptive communication interfaces, and a series of experimental tools that most of his colleagues considered more science fiction than practical technology. The space around the shuttle began to shift, subtle at first, then with increasing intensity. Quantum fluctuations created ripples in the visual spectrum, making the darkness shimmer like a living membrane. Normal navigation systems started to fail, replaced by intuitive responses that seemed to anticipate movement before it happened. Something was calling him. Not just a distress signal, but something more profound. A cosmic invitation that transcended traditional understanding of communication and purpose. Kai had always been an outsider. In the Marines, he was the technician who saw solutions where others saw impossible challenges. In deep space maintenance, he was the specialist who could repair systems that others would have immediately condemned. And now, drifting towards a point in space that shouldn't exist, he felt a familiar sense of anticipation. The shuttle's systems began to transform. Circuitry rearranged itself. Adaptive interfaces morphed, creating configurations that defied current technological understanding. Kai wasn't piloting a machine anymore. He was becoming part of something larger, a living interface between human capability and cosmic complexity. Whatever you are, Kai muttered to the approaching quantum anomaly, I hope you're ready for a human solution. Little did he know that his journey was about to redefine humanity's understanding of its place in the universe, and that the distress signal was merely the first whisper of a challenge that would require every ounce of human ingenuity, adaptability, and sheer determination. The darkness ahead began to pulse with an invitation, and Kai Rodriguez prepared to answer a call that no human had ever received before. The quantum breach. The moment Kai crossed the quantum boundary, reality became a negotiable concept. What had begun as a routine maintenance mission transformed into something far beyond standard cosmic exploration. The shuttle's internal systems flickered and pulsed, no longer responding to conventional commands, but instead communicating through a language of quantum probabilities. Holographic displays materialized around him, not projected by the ship's technology, but seemingly emerging from the fabric of space itself. Mathematical equations danced across these ethereal screens, complex formulae that shifted and mutated with each passing moment. They weren't just data, they were alive, breathing with an intelligence that defied comprehension. Status report, Kai called out, though he knew the traditional ship's computer was no longer functional. A response came not in words, but in a cascade of sensory information. Images, emotions, and mathematical concepts merged into a single stream of consciousness. Kai realized he was experiencing something beyond communication. It was a direct interface with the cosmic intelligence that had sent the original distress signal. Fragments of understanding began to coalesce. A catastrophic event was approaching, not just a threat to a single civilization, but to the fundamental structure of multiple dimensional realities. Something was eating away at the quantum foundations that held different universes in place, a cosmic cancer that threatened to unravel existence itself. The quantum breach revealed itself in layers. What appeared at first to be random fluctuations were actually precise, calculated incursions. Something, or someone, was deliberately destabilizing the quantum barriers between different dimensional planes. Each breach was a carefully orchestrated wound in the fabric of reality. Kai's marine training and technical expertise kicked into overdrive. This wasn't a problem that could be solved with traditional methods. The threat existed in a realm where physics was more of a suggestion than a law, where cause and effect became circular, and probability was a tangible substance. A series of holographic entities began to form around him. They weren't physical beings in any traditional sense, more like living mathematical constructs that shifted between states of existence. Each entity represented a different dimensional civilization threatened by the quantum breach. One such entity, a crystalline formation that pulsed with mathematical precision, communicated the scope of the impending disaster. Entire civilizations were at risk, not just of destruction, but of complete quantum erasure. Their entire existential history would be systematically removed, as if they had never existed. Why me? Kai found himself asking, though he wasn't sure if the question was directed at the cosmic entities or the universe itself. The response came not in words, but in a profound understanding. Humans possessed a unique cognitive flexibility that most advanced civilizations had engineered out of their species. Where others saw limits, humans saw possibilities. Where sophisticated AI would calculate probabilities, humans would find unexpected solutions. Kai began to map out the quantum breaches. Each point of instability was like a quantum infection, spreading its destructive potential across multiple dimensional planes. Traditional repair methods would be like using a Band-Aid to stop a supernova. He pulled out a series of experimental interface devices from his maintenance kit. They were designed for repairing quantum communication arrays, but Kai saw potential far beyond their original purpose. By understanding the mathematical language of the breach, he might be able to create a patch, a quantum firewall that could slow down the dimensional collapse. Hours became meaningless. Time itself was a malleable concept within this quantum realm. Kai worked, his human determination burning brighter than the most advanced computational systems. He was no longer just a maintenance technician. He was becoming something else entirely. The cosmic entities watched, their quantum representations shifting with what could only be described as a mixture of hope and fascination. A human, with nothing more than technical expertise and an unbreakable spirit, was attempting to solve a problem that had stumped multidimensional civilizations. As the first prototype of his quantum patch began to take shape, Kai understood that this was more than a rescue mission. This was a test, a cosmic evaluation of humanity's potential. And he was determined to prove that human ingenuity was a force to be reckoned with. The quantum breach pulsed around him, a living challenge waiting to be confronted. And Kai Rodriguez was just the human to do it. Unlikely allies. The quantum realm began to stabilize around Kai, but not in any way he had anticipated. As his experimental patch took shape, it attracted the attention of beings from across multiple dimensional planes. They arrived not as conquering forces, but as desperate survivors seeking a solution to the cosmic threat. First came Zora, a being composed of living energy from a dimension of pure electromagnetic consciousness. Her form shifted constantly, oscillating between wave and particle, communicating through intricate light patterns that danced across the shuttle's interior. Where most would see an incomprehensible light show, Kai saw a language waiting to be understood. Next arrived Kroll, a silicon-based life form from a gravity-dense universe, massive and crystalline. Kroll's very presence warped the space around him. Communication was initially challenging. Each movement threatened to crush the delicate quantum interfaces Kai had constructed. But human adaptability proved key. Using a combination of gravitational compensators and improvised translation algorithms, Kai found a way to communicate. The breach is systematic. Zora communicated through a series of light pulses that Kai had learned to interpret. Not random. Someone, or something, is deliberately destabilizing dimensional boundaries. Kroll added his perspective through vibrational communications that made the shuttle's hull resonate. The threat was more than a simple dimensional anomaly. It was a calculated attack on the fundamental structures of reality itself. Kai's maintenance background proved unexpectedly crucial. Where advanced civilizations saw insurmountable complexity, he saw a system to be diagnosed and repaired. He began mapping the dimensional breaches like a technician troubleshooting an impossibly complex network. "We need a hybrid approach," Kai explained, pulling up holographic representations of the quantum instabilities. "Your civilizations have incredible specialized knowledge, but you're missing the one thing humans excel at: adaptive problem-solving." The team began to take shape. Zora's ability to manipulate electromagnetic frequencies, Kroll's understanding of gravitational dynamics, and Kai's human ingenuity created a unique problem-solving unit. They were an impossible alliance. A human maintenance specialist, an energy being, and a silicon-based life form, united against a threat that defied conventional understanding. Their first major breakthrough came from an unexpected source. During a particularly intense mapping session, Kai noticed a pattern in the quantum breaches. They weren't random. They followed a precise mathematical sequence that suggested intentional design. "It's like someone is playing dimensional chess," Kai muttered, his fingers dancing across improvised quantum interfaces. Zara's light patterns flickered with what could only be described as excitement. The breaches weren't just attacks. They were a message, a challenge. Someone was testing the dimensional defenses, probing for weaknesses. Kroll's massive form vibrated with a resonance that suggested deep concern. Previous attempts to counter the breaches failed because each civilization approached the problem from its own technological perspective. The crystalline being communicated. Kai understood immediately. Specialized knowledge was a limitation. Each advanced civilization had become so focused on its own technological paradigm that they'd lost the ability to think outside their established frameworks. "We need to be unpredictable," Kai proposed. "Our solution can't follow any expected pattern." The team began constructing a multi-dimensional defense system that defied traditional logic. Zara's electromagnetic manipulations, Kroll's gravitational insights, and Kai's human creativity merged into a solution that was more art than science. As they worked, the quantum realm around them became a living laboratory. Dimensional barriers flickered and danced, responding to their collaborative efforts. It was no longer about fighting the breach. It was about understanding its fundamental nature. Humans are unique. Zora communicated through a complex light pattern. You see limitations as challenges. Other civilizations calculate probability. You imagine possibility. Kroll's vibrational response suggested agreement. The silicon being had observed countless civilizations, but none quite like humanity, a species that turned impossibility into opportunity. As the first prototype of their hybrid defensive system took shape, Kai realized they were doing more than fighting a dimensional threat. They were rewriting the very understanding of collaborative problem-solving across cosmic boundaries. The quantum breach pulsed around them, a living challenge that had just met its most unexpected opponents. The technological gambit. The laboratory they had created defied description. A hybrid space where quantum mechanics, electromagnetic energy, and human innovation converge. Kai Rodriguez stood at the center, surrounded by Zora's pulsing light formations and Kroll's crystalline structure, orchestrating a plan that would either save multiple dimensions or create the most spectacular failure in cosmic history. Their hybrid technology was unlike anything any civilization had ever conceived. It wasn't just a defensive system. It was a living, adaptive network that could predict and respond to dimensional breaches before they fully manifested. Kai's maintenance background proved crucial. Where advanced civilizations saw complex systems, he saw intricate machinery waiting to be understood and repaired. We're not just building a defense, Kai explained to his alien companions. We're creating an immune system for reality itself. The components of their system were as diverse as the team itself. Zara contributed energy matrices that could bend electromagnetic principles, creating quantum firewalls that shifted and adapted in real time. Kroll provided gravitational stabilizers that could anchor dimensional boundaries, preventing them from collapsing under quantum stress. But the true innovation came from Kai's human perspective. He understood something that more advanced civilizations had forgotten: the power of improvisation. Their first major test came unexpectedly. A massive dimensional breach began to form, its tendrils reaching out to consume entire reality planes. Most advanced systems would have calculated probabilities, generated complex defensive protocols. Kai's approach was different. "Interrupt the pattern," he called out, his hands moving across a holographic interface that looked more like an abstract artwork than a control system. Zara's electromagnetic form pulsed with understanding. Instead of a direct confrontation, they would introduce controlled chaos, a concept that went against every logical defensive strategy of advanced civilizations. The breach began to destabilize. Where it expected resistance, it found something entirely unexpected: a defense that didn't follow any predictable pattern. It was like trying to fight a shadow that constantly changed shape. Kroll's gravitational insights proved critical. By understanding the fundamental stress points of dimensional boundaries, they could create localized quantum compressions that would redirect the breach's energy. Personal sacrifices became part of their strategy. Kai realized that their defense required more than technological innovation. It needed a willingness to take risks that calculated systems would never consider. "We might not survive this," Kai said, looking at his alien companions. But the dimensions were protecting Will. The team had become more than just a collection of different species. They were a living, breathing example of what could happen when fundamentally different beings found common ground. As the dimensional breach reached its critical point, their hybrid system activated. It wasn't a weapon. It wasn't a shield. It was something entirely new, a living, adaptive network that could understand and respond to threats in real time. The breach began to collapse in on itself, not through brute force, but through a complex dance of redirection and energy manipulation. Where advanced civilizations saw a threat to be destroyed, Kai and his team saw a problem to be solved. "Humans have always been frontier people," Kai muttered, watching the dimensional dynamics shift. Whether it was exploring new continents, reaching into space, or now, protecting the very fabric of reality. Zara's light patterns suggested what could only be described as pride. Kroll's crystalline structure vibrated with a resonance that spoke of profound respect. They had done more than defend against a threat. They had rewritten the rules of dimensional protection, proving that the most powerful force in the universe wasn't advanced technology. It was the ability to adapt, to imagine, to see possibility where others saw only limitation. The dimensional breach continued to collapse, and with it, the first true test of their hybrid defensive system came to an end. Humanity's cosmic legacy. The aftermath of their dimensional defense was unlike anything the universe had ever witnessed. Kai Rodriguez stood at the epicenter of a cosmic transformation, surrounded by the remnants of their hybrid defense system and the transformed consciousnesses of Zara and Kroll. What had begun as a simple maintenance mission had become a pivotal moment in multidimensional history. The breach they had confronted was more than just a random dimensional anomaly. It was a calculated test of universal resilience. We were never the target, Kai realized, his voice echoing through the quantum realm. We were the solution. Zara's electromagnetic form coalesced into a more defined shape, something closer to understanding. The light patterns revealed a truth that had been hidden from most advanced civilizations. The dimensional breaches were a cosmic selection process, a method of identifying species capable of transcending their own technological limitations. Kroll's crystalline structure pulsed with a revelation. Countless civilizations had failed this test, too rigid in their thinking, too committed to their established technological paradigms. Humans, with their chaotic creativity and adaptive nature, had become the universe's unexpected champions. The final stage of the cosmic challenge began to unfold. The remaining dimensional boundaries began to resonate with a frequency that demanded a response. It was a communication beyond language, a test that required more than technological prowess. Kai understood immediately. This wasn't about defeating a threat. It was about proving a fundamental truth about existence. Adaptation is survival, he said, more to himself than to his alien companions. Not just for species, but for entire dimensional realities. Their hybrid defense system began to transform. What had started as a protective mechanism became something far more profound, a living network that could bridge dimensional boundaries, creating pathways of understanding where before there had been only isolation. Zara's electromagnetic consciousness expanded, showing Kai glimpses of other civilizations that had failed this test. Brilliant species that had become so advanced they lost the ability to think beyond their established paradigms. Societies that had engineered out the very creativity that made survival possible. Humans were different. Their history was a testament to impossible achievements. From crossing vast oceans to reaching into space, from surviving ice ages to developing complex technologies, humanity had always been defined by its ability to imagine beyond current limitations. The cosmic test reached its crescendo. Dimensional boundaries began to pulse with a challenge that went beyond physical or technological constraints. It was a test of spirit, of potential, of the fundamental ability to see beyond the obvious. Kai, Zara, and Kroll merged their consciousnesses in a way that defied traditional understanding. They weren't just defending dimensions, they were rewriting the fundamental rules of cosmic interaction. Humanity's strength, Kai communicated through their merged consciousness, is not in our technology. It's in our ability to look at a problem and see not just what is, but what could be. The final dimensional barrier began to stabilize, but it was more than just a restoration. It was a transformation. Their hybrid system had created something entirely new, a living, adaptive network that could connect different dimensional realities, allowing for unprecedented levels of understanding and cooperation. As the cosmic test concluded, a profound realization emerged. Humanity was not just a species, it was a cosmic potential, a bridge between what existed and what could exist. Zara's light patterns suggested celebration. Kroll's crystalline structure vibrated with a resonance of respect, and Kai Rodriguez, once a simple maintenance technician, now understood that he had become something more, a guardian of cosmic possibilities. The universe had found its unexpected champions, and humanity's legacy was just beginning.